10 worst alcoholic actresses in Hollywood history. Here goes my vote. Welcome to Uncovered Tinseltown Uncovered. Prepare to be shocked as we reveal the untold stories of Hollywood's brightest stars whose careers were destroyed by one of the most powerful and destructive forces, alcoholism. From the glamorous silver screen to a life of public downfall, these actresses faced battles that many never saw coming. It's easy to assume fame and fortune shield you from life's darkest struggles, but the truth might surprise you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments. Which of these tragic stories hit you the hardest? Uncovered Tinseltown Uncovered. Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato's rise to stardom was meteoric. Discovered at a young age, Lovato became a household name as a Disney Channel star known for her roles in Camp Rock 2008 and her chart-topping music career. With powerful vocals and undeniable talent, she seemed poised for a long and prosperous career in both acting and music. However, behind the scenes, Lovato was struggling with personal demons, most notably her battles with substance abuse, mental health issues, and body image struggles. Demi's journey with addiction began early, and by her teenage years, she was already grappling with issues related to alcohol and cocaine. Her struggles were exacerbated by the pressures of growing up in the public eye and the demanding nature of her career. In 2010, while filming Camp Rock 2, the final jam, Lovato was sent to rehab after a physical altercation with a backup dancer, signaling the depth of her inner turmoil. The following years saw her in and out of rehabilitation centers as she tried to confront her addiction. Lovato's public battles with addiction, particularly with alcohol and cocaine, were highly scrutinized by the media. She openly admitted to using substances as a way to cope with depression, eating disorders, and a history of self-harm. In 2018, Lovato faced a life-threatening overdose which brought her struggles to an even more public and devastating point. After being hospitalized, Lovato made a decision to share her journey with the world. In her 2021 docuseries, Demi Lovato, Dancing with the Devil, she shed light on the severity of her addictions, including mixing drugs like heroin with alcohol, a combination that nearly cost her life. Since her overdose, Lovato has worked hard on her recovery. She continues to be vocal about her struggles with addiction and her efforts toward sobriety. While she has faced setbacks, including a brief relapse, Lovato remains a symbol of resilience and recovery. She has used her platform to help others dealing with addiction, emphasizing that the journey to sobriety is often filled with challenges, but that hope is always possible. Demi's story is a poignant reminder of the struggle many face in battling addiction, even for those who appear to have it all. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan was once one of the brightest young talents in Hollywood with a career that seemed destined for greatness. She gained fame at a young age with films like The Parent Trap 1998 and Freaky Friday 2003, showcasing her remarkable talent and charm. Her rise to stardom was swift, and by the time she was in her teens, Lohan was already a household name. However, as her fame increased, so did the pressures of living in the public eye, and Lohan's personal struggles, particularly with substance abuse, began to overshadow her career. Lindsay's battle with addiction started during her teenage years, and by the time she was in her early 20s, her life was consumed by alcohol and drugs. In 2007, Lohan was arrested multiple times for driving under the influence (DUI), and her run-ins with the law became a regular occurrence. The media often covered her legal troubles, and her behavior off-screen became as famous as her film roles. Lohan checked into rehab multiple times, but each time she seemed to relapse, making headlines for her erratic behavior and reckless decisions. Her career began to unravel due to her increasing addiction problems. Lohan was increasingly unreliable on set, showing up late and often appearing intoxicated. The roles that had once been offered to her began to dry up. Her once promising career quickly turned into a series of failed projects and a damaged reputation. Lohan's personal life was just as chaotic. Her public relationships and constant media scrutiny only made matters worse. Despite her struggles, Lohan has occasionally attempted to make a comeback. In 2014, she starred in a reality TV show on the Oprah Winfrey Network, where she sought to repair her image and regain control of her life. However, a public relapse during the filming highlighted the ongoing battle she faced with addiction. Over the years, Lohan has shown glimpses of her former self, but the damage to her career and public image has been lasting. As of today, Lindsay Lohan continues to battle addiction, but she has also made efforts to rebuild her career, particularly in smaller film and television roles. She has opened up about her struggles and remains committed to her recovery. Her story is a heartbreaking reminder of how quickly fame can be derailed by addiction and how difficult it can be to recover once lost. Farrah Fawcett. Farrah Fawcett became one of the most famous actresses of the 1970s. A cultural icon thanks to her role as Jill Monroe on the hit television series Charlie's Angels. With her iconic blonde hair, perfect smile, and athletic physique, Fawcett captured the hearts of millions and became one of the most photographed women of her time. However, her life and career were far more complex than her glamorous on-screen persona suggested. Behind the scenes, Fawcett struggled with alcohol addiction and personal issues that plagued both her professional and personal life. In the 1970s, Fawcett seemed to have it all. She was a major television star, graced the covers of magazines, and was seen as the quintessential all-American girl. But as her fame grew, so did the pressure to maintain her perfect image. Fawcett turned to alcohol as a way to cope with the stress of her career, a pattern that would continue to impact her life. While she was still celebrated for her role in Charlie's Angels, her personal struggles became increasingly apparent as her career faltered in the 1980s. Her drinking worsened in the years following Charlie's Angels, and by the time the 1990s arrived, Fawcett had become more reclusive. She made few public appearances, and instead focused on smaller, more personal projects. Her marriage to actor Lee Majors ended in divorce in 1982, which added another layer of personal turmoil. Fawcett also experienced several failed relationships, one of which involved actor Ryan O'Neal. Together, they navigated a turbulent and sometimes dysfunctional partnership, and both were deeply affected by their shared struggles with addiction. Fawcett's alcohol abuse continued to deteriorate her health, but it wasn't until her battle with cancer in the 2000s that she would become the subject of a different kind of public scrutiny. After being diagnosed with anal cancer in 2006, Fawcett underwent extensive treatments, and her battle was widely covered by the media. Despite this, she remained open about her personal battles, including her alcoholism. Unfortunately, Fawcett's health continued to decline, and on June 25, 2009, she passed away at the age of 62 after a 3-year battle with cancer. Farrah Fawcett's legacy is forever tied to both her fame and her personal struggles. She remains a symbol of the pressures that come with Hollywood fame and the painful effects of addiction, offering a bittersweet reminder of how the most beautiful and successful lives can be ravaged by internal battles. Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake was one of the brightest stars of 1940s Hollywood, renowned for her iconic look and sultry presence on screen. With her signature platinum blonde hair and mysterious side part, she became the quintessential 1940s bombshell, captivating audiences in films like Sullivan's Travels 1941 and The Blue Dahlia 1946. She was a symbol of the golden age of Hollywood, starring alongside legends such as Alan Ladd and Joel McCrea. Her beauty and talent seemed to promise a bright future in the film industry. However, behind her glamorous image, Lake's personal life was riddled with turmoil, most notably her struggle with alcoholism. Lake's descent into alcoholism began in the early 1950s and worsened as her fame faded. Once regarded as one of the top actresses in Hollywood, she soon found herself relegated to supporting roles in smaller productions. As her addiction took hold, her professional reputation crumbled, and she became difficult to work with. Lake's personal life was equally chaotic. She had multiple failed marriages, and her relationships were often marked by alcohol-fueled arguments and instability. She was known to have neglected her children, contributing to the breakdown of her family life. In her memoir, Veronica, The autobiography, 1969. She openly discussed her troubled past, including her addiction to alcohol and its devastating effects on her career and personal relationships. She painted a grim picture of a woman once at the height of Hollywood fame, but now living in obscurity, struggling with homelessness and financial instability. In her later years, Lake became a shadow of her former self, with her once blonde hair turning gray and her beauty fading. Veronica Lake's tragic end came on July 7, 1973, when she died of acute hepatitis at the age of 50. Her health had deteriorated after years of excessive drinking, and her life had become a cautionary tale of the destructive power of addiction. Lake's death left the world with a sense of loss, not just for the actress she once was, but for the potential she had squandered due to her inability to overcome her demons. Her story is a painful reminder of how fame and talent cannot shield one from personal struggles and the devastating effects of substance abuse. Gail Russell. Gail Russell was a rising star in 1940s Hollywood, known for her ethereal beauty and captivating blue eyes that made her a favorite of leading men and audiences alike. She made her film debut in The Uninvited 1944, and her soft, delicate appearance quickly garnered attention. With her angelic looks and poised demeanor, Russell was expected to become one of the era's top stars. She was cast opposite legends like John Wayne Ray Milland and Alan Ladd in several films, and her future in Hollywood appeared bright. However, her promising career was marred by personal struggles, particularly her battle with alcoholism. Russell's problems with alcohol began early in her career. It's widely believed that her severe stage fright and crippling insecurity played a large role in her turning to alcohol as a coping mechanism. As her drinking worsened, it began to affect her work on set. Russell became known for her tardiness, difficulty in completing scenes, and inability to perform to the standard expected of a rising star. Despite her professional difficulties, she continued to secure roles in films throughout the late 1940s and early 1950s. However, by 1959, the consequences of her alcoholism became undeniable, and she was no longer able to find substantial work in Hollywood. Russell's downward spiral continued as her health began to deteriorate from years of alcohol abuse. By the time she reached her 30s, she was living in isolation, retreating to her Los Angeles studio apartment, where she drank heavily. In 1961, Russell appeared in what would be her final film, The Silent Call, a haunting title that seemed eerily prescient of her fate. After the film's completion, she became even more withdrawn, engaging in little social contact and drinking herself into an unhealthy state. On August 21, 1961, at just 36 years old, Russell passed away in her apartment. The official cause of death was a heart attack brought on by her alcohol addiction. Her body was found the following day, and she was buried in Hollywood's Pierce Brothers Memorial Park. Russell's tragic end was a result of both her personal struggles and the toll that alcoholism took on her health. Despite her promising career, she became a symbol of how the Hollywood dream could be shattered by addiction. She was never fully able to recover the promise she once showed, and her death remains a sad reminder of the harsh realities faced by many stars of the golden age of Hollywood. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton was one of Hollywood's brightest stars in the early 1950s, with the potential to rival actresses like Marilyn Monroe and Lauren Bacall. With her stunning looks, she was cast in films alongside major actors such as James Cagney, Gregory Peck, and Lloyd Bridges. Her beauty and charm made her one of the rising stars in Hollywood, but her personal life soon became a tragic story of self-destruction fueled by alcohol, drugs, and bad decisions. Payton's first big break came in 1949 with Trapped, where she played opposite Lloyd Bridges. The film marked the beginning of what seemed like a promising career. She went on to star in several films, including Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye 1950 with Cagney and Only the Valiant 1951 with Gregory Peck. Despite these notable roles, Payton's personal life began to take a toll on her career. She became involved in a number of high-profile and often tumultuous relationships with men in Hollywood. At the height of her fame, she was romantically linked to actor Franchot Tone, though the relationship was troubled by jealousy and infidelity. Payton's descent into alcoholism began in the early 1950s, and it quickly spiraled out of control. She turned to alcohol and heroin to cope with the pressures of Hollywood, and her career began to suffer. By the mid-1950s, Payton's reputation was tarnished. Her wild behavior and erratic drinking alienated both colleagues and film executives. She found herself doing unglamorous work in B films and television series. In the mid-1960s, Payton's life took another turn for the worse. Desperate for money to support her addictions, she resorted to prostitution, often exchanging her body for drugs and alcohol. Her appearances became less frequent, and her health began to deteriorate. In 1967, Payton died at the age of 39 from heart failure caused by her prolonged substance abuse. Her appearance had deteriorated so significantly that it was difficult for authorities to identify her when her body was discovered. Barbara Payton's tragic life serves as a cautionary tale of how quickly fame and beauty can fade in the face of addiction. Her story is not just about a promising career cut short, but also about the profound impact of substance abuse on one's life, reputation, and health. Bette Davis. Bette Davis, one of the greatest actresses in Hollywood history, was a symbol of fierce talent and unyielding determination. Known for her powerful performances in classics such as All About Eve 1950 and Now Voyager 1942, Davis became a Hollywood legend whose acting prowess transcended the limitations of the roles she was often given. But behind her unwavering strength on screen, Davis faced personal struggles that would tarnish her image and challenge her throughout her life, particularly her battle with alcohol. Davis was an actress who lived life with a fierceness that mirrored the characters she portrayed. Her career reached staggering heights, and she became known for her relentless drive to succeed in a male-dominated industry. However, despite her public success, Davis's personal life was far from perfect. Her tumultuous marriage to actor Gary Merrill was strained by both partners' alcoholism, and Davis herself was known for being a mean drunk. Alcohol became a source of personal turmoil and was often at the root of volatile relationships in her life. Her fiery temper and addiction created significant tension in her personal life, and it impacted her relationships with those around her. Despite these challenges, Davis remained a powerhouse in Hollywood well into her later years. She won 2 Academy Awards for Best Actress, one for Dangerous 1935 and another for Jezebel 1938. However, the impact of her addiction and volatile personal life were undeniable. Davis had several marriages, all of which ended in divorce, and many of her relationships were marked by bitterness and conflict, some exacerbated by alcohol. In the 1970s, Davis continued to work but was in declining health. In 1983, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, which led to her passing on October 6, 1989, at the age of 81. Her health had been weakened by years of excessive drinking, which had taken a toll on her body. Although Davis fought hard to remain relevant in Hollywood and staged a remarkable comeback after some of her personal challenges, her life was marred by alcohol addiction that affected both her career and personal relationships. Bette Davis's legacy is a complex one filled with extraordinary talent, but also punctuated by personal demons. Her story is a sobering reminder of how even the most iconic stars can fall victim to addiction, and how those struggles can intertwine with the brilliance they display on screen. Judy Garland. Judy Garland was a beloved star whose career spanned decades from her iconic role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, to her powerful performances on stage and screen. Known for her remarkable voice charm and vulnerability, Garland captured the hearts of millions, becoming one of the most enduring icons in American film history. However, beneath her glittering career lay a deeply troubled personal life, heavily influenced by substance abuse, especially alcohol. Garland's struggles with addiction began in her youth during her time at MGM, where she was forced to maintain a grueling work schedule and was given drugs to control her weight and boost her energy. These early experiences with substance abuse would haunt her for the rest of her life. By the time she starred in The Wizard of Oz, Garland was already dependent on prescription medications which were supplied by the studio in order to keep her performing at the high demands of Hollywood. The studio's mistreatment of her, including forcing her to take amphetamines and barbiturates to stay slim and energetic, exacerbated her emotional and mental struggles, setting the stage for a lifelong battle with addiction. In the years that followed, Garland's personal life became a series of tragedies, many of which were fueled by her addiction to alcohol and drugs. She was married 5 times, with her marriages often marked by turmoil and instability. Her personal demons led to frequent hospitalizations and rehab stints, but her addiction to alcohol and pills continued to plague her, affecting both her career and her relationships. As her weight fluctuated and her health deteriorated, Garland faced professional setbacks, including being fired from movies and struggling to maintain her Hollywood image. Garland's career continued to spiral downward as she struggled to keep her addiction in check. She was frequently late to set, and her reputation for being unreliable became well known. Despite these setbacks, she remained a beloved figure in entertainment and continued to perform in concert halls and on the stage. Her last film appearance was in I Could Go On Singing 1963, but her life was already in decline. On June 22, 1969, Garland passed away at the age of 47 from an overdose of barbiturates. Her death was a tragic end to the life of one of Hollywood's most talented and iconic stars. Judy Garland's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the pressures of fame and the dark side of the entertainment industry. Her struggles with addiction, particularly alcohol, were a constant battle that overshadowed her immense talent and tragically shortened her life. Despite the turmoil she faced, her legacy as a beloved entertainer endures, and her story remains one of Hollywood's most poignant cautionary tales. Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher was one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses, best known for her iconic role as Princess Leia in Star Wars 1977. Her career spanned decades, and her sharp wit, incredible talent, and sense of humor endeared her to millions of fans. However, Fisher's life was not without its challenges. Behind the glitzy facade of fame, Fisher struggled with mental health issues, addiction, and the pressures that came with growing up in the spotlight. Her candidness about her battles with substance abuse and her openness about her struggles have made her an advocate for mental health awareness. Fisher's issues with alcohol and drugs began in her teenage years. As the daughter of Hollywood legends Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher, she was no stranger to the limelight. However, the pressures of fame combined with her family dynamics and emotional struggles led her to develop a dependence on substances. Fisher's addiction to alcohol, cocaine, and prescription drugs escalated as she became an adult. Her struggles were publicized, especially when she checked into rehab multiple times throughout her career. Fisher's battles with addiction were further complicated by her mental health issues, including bipolar disorder, which she discussed openly in interviews, and her memoir, Wishful Drinking, 2008. Despite her personal struggles, Fisher continued to work and deliver memorable performances. She was not just a talented actress, but also a writer with her autobiographical work, showcasing her ability to reflect on her experiences with humor and depth. Fisher's role in Star Wars became synonymous with her career, but she also appeared in films such as The Blues Brothers, 1980, When Harry Met Sally, 1989, and lent her voice to animated works like Family Guy. Fisher became a symbol of resilience, often using her fame to share her journey of recovery and to advocate for others struggling with addiction and mental health disorders. On December 27, 2016, Carrie Fisher tragically passed away at the age of 60 from a heart attack. Her death was a devastating loss to her family, fans, and the entertainment industry. Her openness about her battles with addiction and mental health helped reduce the stigma surrounding these issues, making her an important figure for those who faced similar struggles. Carrie Fisher's legacy is defined not only by her legendary role as Princess Leia, but also by her courageous honesty and the advocacy work she left behind. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor, one of the most iconic actresses of Hollywood's golden age, was known for her beauty talent and tumultuous personal life. With a career that spanned over 6 decades, she starred in some of the most memorable films in Hollywood history, including Cleopatra, 1963, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, 1958, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, 1966. But Taylor's life was not only defined by her legendary performances. Behind her on-screen successes, she faced years of addiction, public struggles, and complicated relationships that affected both her career and personal well-being. Elizabeth Taylor's battle with addiction began in the 1970s, when she turned to alcohol and prescription medications to cope with the stress and emotional pain of her personal life. Taylor's series of high-profile marriages, including her highly publicized relationship with actor Richard Burton, were often fueled by her struggles with substance abuse. Her marriage to Burton was famously marked by their shared dependency on alcohol, which many referred to as the third partner in their relationship. This toxic dynamic resulted in the dissolution of their marriage twice, but Taylor's battles with addiction continued long after. In the 1980s, Elizabeth Taylor sought help for her addiction by entering the Betty Ford Center, becoming one of the first celebrities to do so publicly. She successfully completed rehab, but her relationship with prescription medications persisted. In addition to her addiction, Taylor struggled with numerous health issues, including a diagnosis of congestive heart failure, which would later contribute to her death. Despite her challenges, Taylor remained a dominant figure in Hollywood and worked to raise awareness about AIDS, co-founding the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation in 1991. Her philanthropic efforts became a significant part of her legacy, as she dedicated much of her later years to raising millions for AIDS research and support. Taylor's alcohol and prescription drug dependency significantly impacted her career and her public image, but she continued to work often in projects where she would lend her star power to philanthropic causes or make rare appearances on screen. In 1983, she made a public commitment to sobriety, losing 45 pounds after her stay at the Betty Ford Center, and tried to reclaim her personal and professional life. On March 23, 2011, Elizabeth Taylor passed away at the age of 79 due to complications from congestive heart failure. Her death marked the end of an era for Hollywood, but her legacy as one of the greatest actresses of all time and as an advocate for AIDS research lives on. Taylor's life, filled with public highs and private struggles, is a poignant reminder of how addiction can affect even the most famous and glamorous individuals. Hollywood is filled with stories of stardom, but for some of its brightest stars, addiction cast a dark shadow over their careers. From Veronica Lake to Elizabeth Taylor, these actresses' battles with alcoholism became as infamous as their on-screen performances. Their struggles reveal the darker side of fame, one that is often hidden behind the glitz and glamour of the red carpet. Which of these tragic tales of addiction surprised you the most? Do you think the pressures of Hollywood contributed to their downfalls, or were there other forces at play? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Uncovered, Tinseltown Uncovered.